The horse's hooves hammered the dirt road like thunder. Gabriella Garrison's fingers went white around the reins as smoke rose behind her, black, thick, hungry. Everything she'd ever known was burning, every memory, every dream. Gone. It was 1873. She was 24 years old, and she had just lost it all. But that wasn't even the worst part. 3 months ago, a doctor in Truckee, California had delivered news that shattered her more than any fire ever could. She would never have children. The illness from her childhood had left scars inside her body that no medicine could fix, no surgery could repair, no prayer could reverse. She was alone, barren, homeless, and she was about to meet a man who would change everything. The town of Truckee appeared through her tears. Wooden buildings, muddy streets, the railroad station where the transcontinental line had transformed this settlement into something almost civilized. Gabriella slowed her mare outside Dr. Morrison's office. She needed a friendly face, someone who knew her secret shame. "Miss Garrison." The elderly doctor's spectacles slid down his nose as she stumbled inside, covered in ash. "My God, what happened?" "The ranch," her voice cracked. "Fire took it all." Dr. Morrison guided her to a chair, poured water. His kindness made her cry harder. She'd been holding everything in for so long, her parents' deaths 2 years ago, the diagnosis, the loneliness of running a homestead by herself. Now even that was gone. "What will you do?" he asked gently. She had no answer, no family, no home, no future that made sense anymore. But then Dr. Morrison said something unexpected. "Actually, I may have a solution." Gabriella looked up. Hope flickered, small and fragile. "Zachariah Issac. He runs the big cattle ranch north of town. Lost his brother last year. The place is falling apart without a woman's touch. He's looking for a housekeeper." A housekeeper. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but what choice did she have? "He's a good man," the doctor continued. "Quiet, war veteran, keeps to himself." The next morning, Gabriella rode toward the Issac ranch with everything she owned stuffed into saddlebags. The property was massive, rolling pastures, hundreds of cattle, a sturdy log house nestled against pine trees. As she approached, a tall figure emerged from the barn. Zachariah Issac was not what she expected. He moved with a slight limp, Gettysburg she'd learn later, and his dark hair brushed his collar, longer than most men wore it. His face was weathered, tanned from Nevada sun, and his eyes, bright blue, startling against his skin, holding something she couldn't quite name. Sadness, maybe, or resignation. "Mr. Issac," she dismounted. "Dr. Morrison said you need a housekeeper." He studied her with those blue eyes. "The doctor speaks highly of you, but he doesn't say why a woman who owned her own ranch would want to keep house for someone else." She swallowed. "My ranch burned. Yesterday. I have nowhere else to go." Something flickered across his face. "The job's yours if you want it." Just like that. No questions about her qualifications, no lengthy interview. Maybe he was desperate too. The house was a disaster. Dust everywhere, dishes piled in the sink, that particular smell of a place where women hadn't lived in too long. "My brother's wife died before he did," Zachariah explained. "Neither of us much cared for housekeeping." He showed her to a small bedroom with a window overlooking an overgrown garden. "I take supper at 6. Then he was gone, leaving Gabriella alone with her thoughts and the weight of how much her life had changed in just 48 hours. That first evening she made beef stew, found some dried vegetables in the pantry, baked bread with the supplies on hand. When Zachariah came in at 6 precisely, he stopped in the doorway. "Something smells good." They ate in silence. He wasn't one for conversation, clearly, but he helped himself to seconds, then thirds. First proper meal I've had in months, he admitted. Thank you. As they cleared the dishes, he helped, which surprised her. She asked, You have family, Mr. Issac? No. My parents died years back. My brother Daniel was all I had. Same here, she said quietly. Just me now. Understanding passed between them. Two people who'd lost everything, trying to build something from the ruins. But Gabriella didn't know then what she was really walking into. She didn't know about Daniel's secret, about the woman in Sacramento, about the choice that would destroy her and save her at the same time. She didn't know that in less than 6 months, everything would change again. The weeks fell into rhythm. She cleaned, cooked, tended the garden, convinced Zachariah to buy chickens for fresh eggs. The house transformed under her care, becoming something that felt almost like a home. And Zachariah, he changed too, talked more at meals, shared stories about his day. The grimness that had marked his features when she arrived began to soften. One evening in late June, a thunderstorm rolled in fast. Gabriella was hanging laundry when the first drops fell. She rushed to gather the wet clothes, but suddenly Zachariah was there, helping. Leave them, he said as lightning cracked overhead. Not safe. They stood on the porch watching the storm. Lightning illuminated everything in brilliant flashes. Gabriella found herself saying, I've always loved storms. My mother said they clean the air. My brother used to say they were God's way of getting our attention. The intimacy of the moment, the storm, the darkness, the two of them alone, made her brave. Did you ever marry Mr. Issac? No. The war came, then years of drifting. By the time I came back here seemed too late. He glanced at her. And you? No. I always thought I'd have a family someday, but... She stopped. This was too private, too painful, but something made her continue. I can't have children. An illness when I was young. I'm sorry, he said, and she believed he meant it. That night something shifted between them. A connection formed, tentative but real. What Gabriella didn't know was that in 3 months, she'd be holding a baby in her arms. A baby that would break her heart and heal it at the same time. A baby that would test everything she thought she knew about love and family and what it meant to be a mother. But first, she had to fall in love. Summer burned hot and dry. The garden flourished. The house became comfortable. And Zachariah began to smile more, laugh more freely. One Sunday in August, he suggested they picnic by the stream on the eastern edge of the property. It's a nice spot, he said, almost apologetically. Cooler than the house. They sat under cottonwood trees, ate cold chicken and biscuits, talked about their pasts. Daniel and him as boys, fishing in this very stream, her parents' homestead, the memories that kept the dead alive. You loved that place, Zachariah said. I did. It wasn't grand like this ranch, but it was home. He looked at her intently. This could be your home too. Her heart quickened. What do you mean? What I mean is... He seemed nervous, which was strange for such a steady man. You've made this place better. I hope you'll stay, not just as a housekeeper. Before she could respond, hoofbeats interrupted. A ranch hand appeared, his horse lathered. Mr. Issac, rustlers hit the north pasture, took at least 20 head. Zachariah's expression hardened. Get the men together. He turned to Gabriella. I'm sorry, I have to go. Be careful, she said, but he was already mounting his horse. She returned to the house alone, those words echoing. Not just as a housekeeper. What had he been about to say? It was past midnight when she heard horses in the yard. She'd waited up, worried. When Zachariah finally entered, exhausted, a cut above his eye crusted with dried blood, she immediately fetched water and a cloth. It's nothing. Branch caught me. She insisted on cleaning it, her hands gentle. He sat still, eyes never leaving her face. "Did you find them?" "Tracked them to the county line. Lost them in the dark. Recovered most of the cattle, though." When she finished, he caught her hand. "Gabriella." First time he'd used her given name. "What I was trying to say earlier, I'm not good with words. Just say what you feel. I care for you, more than I should, perhaps, as your employer. But I can't help it." His voice roughened. "I've been alone a long time. I didn't think I wanted anyone again. But you've changed that." Her heart pounded. "I care for you too, Zachariah." Relief and joy flashed across his face. Slowly giving her time to pull away, he leaned forward and kissed her. Brief, almost chaste, but it sent warmth spreading through her entire body. "I should court you properly," he said, "if you'll allow it." "I would like that very much." The courtship was old-fashioned, respectful. He brought wildflowers, took her riding across the ranch, read aloud by the fire in the evenings. The hands noticed, exchanged knowing glances when their boss went out of his way to spend time with the pretty housekeeper. As autumn painted the landscape gold and crimson, Gabriella fell deeply in love. Zachariah was quiet but steadfast, a man of integrity and gentle strength. When he held her hand or kissed her cheek, she felt cherished, but a shadow lingered. One evening in late October, watching the sunset from the porch, she couldn't keep her fears inside anymore. "Zachariah, I need to talk about something important." Concern filled his eyes. "What is it?" "You know I can't have children. I need to be sure you understand what that means. If our relationship continues, there will never be a family. Do you think that matters to me?" "It should. A man wants sons, an inheritance." He took her hands. "Gabriella, look at me. I love you, not for what you can give me, but for who you are. If God blesses us with children somehow, I'll be grateful. If not, having you as my wife would be blessing enough." Tears filled her eyes. "Do you really mean that?" He reached into his pocket, withdrew a small gold ring with a pearl. "I was going to wait for a more romantic moment, but maybe now is perfect." He held her gaze. "Gabriella Garrison, will you marry me?" Joy exploded inside her. "Yes, yes, I will marry you." They were married 2 weeks later in the small church in Truckee. Simple ceremony. Dr. Morrison gave her away. Gabriella wore ivory silk ordered from Sacramento. When she walked down the aisle toward Zachariah, the love in his eyes made her feel beautiful. The first months of marriage were blissful. Winter settled over the Sierra Nevada. Long evenings by the fire, shared touches, glances, deeper connections in private moments. Christmas came, their first as husband and wife. They hosted the ranch hands for dinner, decorated with pine boughs, exchanged modest gifts. Watching Zachariah laugh with the men, Gabriella felt complete. But then, one evening in February, he found her crying in the kitchen. "What's wrong?" "It's foolish." "Not if it makes you cry." "I was just thinking about what it would be like to have a child with you." She wiped her eyes. "Sometimes I forget for a little while that it's impossible. Then it hits me all over again." He held her close. "I'm sorry, my love. So sorry. I'm happy with you. Please believe that." "I know." But after that, Zachariah seemed preoccupied, distracted. When she asked, he claimed it was just ranch business. Then one March morning, he announced he needed to ride into town. "Want to come?" "No, thank you. I've got bread to bake." He kissed her goodbye, lingering longer than usual. "I love you. I love you too." After he left, Gabriella went about her chores, humming. Around midday, she heard hoofbeats. Thinking he'd returned early, she went to the window. But it wasn't Zachariah. It was a young woman she didn't recognize, riding alongside one of the hands. The woman carried a bundle wrapped in a shawl. Curious, Gabriella stepped onto the porch. "Mrs. Issac," the hand called. "This lady's asking for Mr. Issac. Says it's important." "My husband is in town. I'm Mrs. Issac. Can I help you?" The young woman dismounted awkwardly, clutching her bundle. As she came closer, Gabriella realized what she carried. A baby. "My name is Mary Wilkins, ma'am," the woman said hesitantly. "I'm looking for Zachariah Issac. It's about this baby. His brother Daniel's baby." The world tilted. That's not possible. Daniel's baby died with his wife over a year ago. Mary shook her head. "No, ma'am. This is Daniel's child, born just 3 months ago." She pulled back the shawl to reveal a tiny sleeping face. "His name is Thomas." Gabriella's mind raced. "I don't understand. Daniel's wife died in childbirth." "Yes, ma'am. Sarah was his wife. I was—" Mary's cheeks flushed. "I was working at a place in Sacramento when Daniel would come to sell cattle. We became close." The implication crashed over Gabriella like cold water. This young woman had been Daniel's mistress. "When I found out I was expecting, I wrote to him," Mary continued. "He sent money, said he'd take responsibility, but then he died before the baby came." Gabriella struggled to process this. "Why have you come now?" "I tried to manage on my own, but I can't." Tears filled Mary's eyes. "I heard Mr. Isaac was his brother. I thought maybe he'd want to know about his nephew." Before Gabriella could respond, a wagon approached. Zachariah. His face registered shock when he saw Mary. "Mary, what are you doing here?" Gabriella stared at him. "You know her?" Pain crossed his face. "Yes, Daniel told me about her before he died." "You knew about the baby?" "No," he said firmly. "I knew about Mary, but Daniel never mentioned a child." Mary stepped forward, unwrapping the baby further. "He's your nephew, Mr. Isaac. Look at him." Zachariah approached slowly. As he looked down at the infant, something changed in his expression. "He has Daniel's chin." "And his eyes when they're open," Mary added. Gabriella watched, emotions in turmoil. Hurt that Zachariah had kept Mary's existence secret, but also yearning. As she looked at the baby, something stirred inside her, something unexpected. "Why have you come?" Zachariah asked. "I can't keep him," Mary said bluntly. "I need to work, and no decent place will hire a woman with a bastard child. I thought maybe you'd want him being your blood and all." Zachariah looked at Gabriella, his eyes questioning, almost pleading. "We should talk inside," Gabriella said finally. "It's too cold for the baby." What happened next would change everything, but neither of them knew it yet. They didn't know this abandoned child would become their salvation. They didn't know that in taking him, they'd discover a path to parenthood they never imagined possible. They didn't know they were about to build an empire of love from the ruins of loss. Inside, Mary told her full story. The affair with Daniel, his promises to provide for her and the child, how the money stopped when he died, how she'd struggled for 3 months before accepting defeat. "I want you to take Thomas," Mary said directly. "Raise him as your own. He deserves better than I can give him." Gabriella glanced at Zachariah, who'd been unusually quiet. "Could you give us a moment?" he asked Mary. In the other room, Gabriella turned to him. "You knew about her all along." "I knew Daniel had a woman in Sacramento. He asked me to check on her if anything happened, but he never mentioned a baby." He ran a hand through his hair. "I should have told you, but after we married, it didn't seem important." Gabriella set aside her hurt. "What do you want to do about the baby?" His eyes met hers. "He's my nephew, my blood, but this is a decision we make together. If we take him, It changes everything. Yes, we'd be parents. To a child that isn't ours by birth. He is mine by blood, Zachariah pointed out, and could be yours by love. The words hit Gabriella like a physical force. A child, a baby to raise, to love. Something she'd believed impossible. You want this, she whispered. Only if you do. I won't bring him into our home if you're not fully willing. Gabriella closed her eyes. Her heart raced. When she opened them, her decision was made. Let's meet our son. Relief transformed Zachariah's face. He pulled her into his arms. Are you sure? Yes. Despite the shock, despite the hurt, something deep within her had recognized this moment as a gift. Unexpected, unplanned, but precious. They returned to Mary. We'll take him, Zachariah said. Tears filled Mary's eyes. You'll be good to him. We'll love him as our own, Gabriella promised, surprising herself with how true the words felt. Mary wrote down his birth date, explained his routine. Then, with visible effort, she handed the baby to Gabriella. The weight of him in her arms was foreign, yet familiar. He looked up at her with curious blue eyes, like his father's, like his uncle's. A tiny hand escaped the blanket, fingers flexing. Without thinking, Gabriella offered her finger. He grasped it with surprising strength. Hello, Thomas, she whispered. I'm going to be your mother now. The baby made a small sound, almost like agreement. Mary stayed only long enough to explain Thomas's needs. She refused Zachariah's offer of money. When she left, her shoulders were straight, but Gabriella had seen the heartbreak in her eyes. She loves him, Gabriella said after Mary was gone. Yes, enough to give him up. The first days with Thomas were chaos. Neither of them had experience with infants. Nights were fragmented by crying, days punctuated by feedings and diaper changes. Zachariah rearranged his work to help. Gabriella found herself moved by the tenderness with which this strong man handled his tiny nephew. Word spread quickly. Neighbors reacted with curiosity and judgment. Some accepted the story that Thomas was Daniel's legitimate child. Others suspected the truth but stayed polite. Dr. Morrison examined Thomas and smiled knowingly. He's healthy and thriving. You seem to be adjusting well to motherhood. It's overwhelming but wonderful. Sometimes God works in unexpected ways, the doctor said. This boy needed parents. You needed a child to love. As spring turned to summer, Thomas grew and changed. He began to smile, a gummy grin that melted Gabriella's heart every time. His eyes tracked her movements. His little body wiggled with excitement when she approached. Zachariah was equally besotted. He'd carry Thomas around the ranch in a sling, proudly showing him the cattle and horses. In the evenings, he'd rock him to sleep, singing old war songs. One night, Gabriella found Zachariah on the porch, staring at stars. Penny, for your thoughts. I was thinking about Daniel, wondering if he knows his son is safe with us. I believe he does. He looked at her. Are you happy, Gabriella, with this life we've made? She considered seriously. I never expected any of this. Losing my ranch, coming here, falling in love with you, becoming a mother. But yes, I'm happier than I ever thought possible. He kissed her. Deep, full of promise. I never thought I'd have a family. Now I have everything. Everything. He smiled. Well, maybe a few more children someday. There are others who need homes like Thomas. The idea of expanding their family filled her with joy. I'd like that. Thomas's first word was, Mama, spoken one morning as Gabriella dressed him. She burst into tears, calling for Zachariah. Did you hear? He called me Mama. Zachariah smiled broadly. Smart boy. He knows who loves him. By Thomas's first birthday, no one could have guessed he wasn't born to them. They celebrated with a small party. Watching Thomas smash his hands into cake, squealing with delight, Gabriella caught Zachariah's eye across the room. The love there mirrored her own feelings. Later, Zachariah handed her a small box. Inside was a delicate gold locket with a tiny portrait of Thomas. "The other side is empty," he explained, "for our next child, whenever he or she comes to us." Summer faded into autumn. A letter arrived from Mary in San Francisco. She was doing well, working as a seamstress. She didn't ask about Thomas directly, but enclosed a hand-knitted sweater. Gabriella wrote back, including a photograph of Thomas and detailed accounts of his development. It seemed fair that his birth mother should know he was thriving. As Thomas approached 18 months, his personality blossomed. Adventurous, stubborn, a laugh that could brighten any day. He toddled after Zachariah constantly, trying to imitate everything his father did. One November morning, Gabriella was in town buying supplies when she overheard a conversation. "Poor little foundling," an older woman said. "Taking in Daniel Issac's bastard like that. Christian charity, I suppose, though why they pretend he's their own is beyond me." The woman turned, reddening when she saw Gabriella. "Mrs. Issac, I didn't see you." Gabriella stepped closer. "Thomas is our son in every way that matters. The circumstances of his birth are no one's concern but ours." The woman looked ashamed. "I meant no offense. I believe you did. But I forgive you, as I hope others forgive your mistakes." She completed her purchases with dignity and rode home troubled. Hearing Thomas called a foundling and bastard cut deeply. She feared what he might face growing older. When she told Zachariah, his jaw tightened. "People will always talk, but Thomas will know he's loved. That's what matters." "I want to adopt him legally," Gabriella decided. "Make it official that I'm his mother, if anything ever happened to you." He nodded, understanding. "We'll talk to the lawyer next week." The process was straightforward. By Christmas, papers declared Gabriella his legal mother. That Christmas was joyous. Thomas was excited by decorations and presents. Watching him rip paper off packages with gleeful abandon, Gabriella felt a completeness she'd never imagined. But the story wasn't over, not even close. Because in late January, something impossible happened. Something that would test everything Gabriella thought she knew about her body, her limitations, her future. Something that would prove miracles don't always come wrapped the way we expect. One evening, as they sat by the fire with Thomas asleep, Zachariah brought up something unexpected. "I've been thinking about Daniel's room. It's time to clear it out." The room had remained untouched since his brother's death. Doctor kept closed. "Are you sure?" Gabriella asked. "Yes. Time to let go of the past. I was thinking we could make it into a room for Thomas when he's older, and maybe—" He hesitated. "Maybe a nursery first, for another child." Gabriella's heart leapt. Another child. "I received a letter from the orphanage in Sacramento. They have a baby girl, just 2 months old. Her mother died in childbirth. No father in the picture. They asked if we might be interested." "Oh, Zachariah. A daughter?" "Only if you want to." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I want her." His face lit up. "I'll write back tomorrow." The prospect of expanding their family excited Gabriella. She'd taken to motherhood naturally, discovering depths of love she hadn't known existed. A baby girl to join their son seemed perfect. February brought heavy snowstorms. During one, Thomas developed a worrying cough. By nightfall, he was burning with fever. Gabriella and Zachariah took turns sitting with him, applying cool compresses, trying to get him to drink. As his condition worsened, fear gripped them. "We need the doctor," Zachariah said grimly. "The roads are impassable. It's too dangerous. I can't just sit here and watch him suffer." Zachariah pulled on his heaviest coat. "I'll take the strongest horse." After he left, Gabriella continued tending Thomas, praying as she'd never prayed before. The night stretched endlessly, marked by the boy's rasping breaths and feverish whimpers. By dawn, Thomas seemed marginally better. Relief flooded her when she heard voices in the yard. Zachariah and Dr. Morrison entered, stomping snow from their boots. "How is he?" Zachariah asked immediately. "A bit better. His fever's down some." Dr. Morrison examined Thomas thoroughly. "Pneumonia, but we've caught it early. He's young and strong." The next days were anxious, but Thomas gradually improved. His fever broke on the third day. "He's going to be fine," Dr. Morrison assured them. "Children are remarkably resilient." After the doctor left, Gabriella found Zachariah in Thomas's room, watching their son sleep. "Thank you for going for the doctor. You may have saved his life." He turned, embracing her. "I was so afraid. The thought of losing him." "I know, but we didn't lose him. He's still here." That night, holding each other in bed, they spoke of hopes and fears with new honesty. Thomas's illness had shaken them, reminding them of life's fragility. "I never knew I could love someone so much it hurt," Zachariah confessed. "Not until you and Thomas. Becoming a mother changed me in ways I never expected. It's opened my heart completely." March brought the first real thaw. With it came news from the orphanage. The home visit would take place in 2 weeks. If satisfactory, they could bring their daughter home by May. Gabriella threw herself into preparations. Thomas, fully recovered, followed her about, helping in his enthusiastic toddler way. The day of the home visit, Gabriella was nervous despite Zachariah's reassurances. The representative, a stern-looking woman named Miss Abernathy, arrived precisely at 10. She inspected the house thoroughly, asking pointed questions about finances, routines, parenting philosophy. Thomas, unusually shy, clung to Gabriella's skirts. "You already have one child," Miss Abernathy noted. "And he came to you under irregular circumstances." "Thomas is our son," Zachariah said firmly. "The circumstances of his birth don't change that." The woman regarded them thoughtfully. "Why do you want another child?" "Because we have love to give," Gabriella answered honestly, "and a home to share. And you're prepared for the challenges of raising a girl who isn't biologically yours." "We're prepared to love her completely, just as we love Thomas." Something in her sincerity convinced Miss Abernathy, whose expression softened. "The child we've been calling Jane was abandoned at our doorstep. We know nothing of her parentage." "Her name will be Sarah," Zachariah said, glancing at Gabriella, who nodded. They decided to name their daughter after Daniel's wife, honoring his memory. "Sarah Issac. She'll be loved and cherished." Miss Abernathy made final notes. "Everything appears in order. Barring unforeseen issues, you should be able to collect Sarah in 6 weeks." After she left, Gabriella and Zachariah embraced. Thomas, sensing their happiness, clapped and demanded, "Up, up," until Zachariah swung him into the air. The weeks passed in a blur. Gabriella prepared the nursery, washing baby things Thomas had outgrown. Zachariah built a new cradle, working late to perfect every detail. They spoke to Thomas often about his coming sister, preparing him for the change. Finally, the day arrived. They traveled to Sacramento, leaving Thomas with a trusted ranch hand's wife. The orphanage was a stark brick building. Inside, halls echoed with children's voices. Miss Abernathy led them to a small office for final paperwork. Then, with a rare smile, she left to fetch their daughter. The minutes seemed eternal. Gabriella clutched Zachariah's hand, heart racing. When the door opened and Miss Abernathy returned with a small bundle, time stopped. "Here she is," the woman said, transferring the baby to Gabriella's arms. "Your daughter." Sarah was smaller than Thomas had been, with dark hair and solemn brown eyes that regarded Gabriella with curiosity. Tiny fists balled against her chest. "Hello, Sarah," Gabriella whispered, tears streaming. "We've been waiting for you." Zachariah's arm came around her shoulders. "She's perfect." The journey home was nerve-wracking. Every jolt made Gabriella clutch Sarah tighter. The baby remained calm, sleeping most of the trip. When they arrived home, Thomas was waiting impatiently on the porch. He ran to meet them, stopping short when he saw the bundle. "Baby?" he asked, eyes wide. "Yes, darling," Gabriella answered, kneeling so he could see. "This is your sister, Sarah." Thomas peered at the baby with intense concentration. After a moment, he reached out to touch her hand. When Sarah grasped his finger, his face broke into a delighted smile. "My baby," he declared. "That's right," Zachariah said, ruffling his hair. "Your sister." Adjustment to two children was challenging, but joyful. Sarah proved easier than Thomas had been, sleeping longer, rarely fussing. Thomas was fascinated by her, often sitting beside her cradle, reading from his picture books. By summer's end, the family had settled into new routines. Gabriella sometimes marveled at how completely her life had transformed in 2 years, from lonely widow with a barren womb to wife and mother of two. One evening on the porch, watching sunset, Sarah asleep in her arms and Thomas playing at their feet, Zachariah spoke of the future. "I've been thinking about expanding the ranch, buying the Johnson property that adjoins ours." "That sounds good." "It would be an investment in our future, the children's future." The casual way he said, "our future, the children's future," filled Gabriella with contentment. They were building something lasting, a legacy. "I think we should do it." As autumn painted the landscape, their family continued thriving. Sarah began sitting up, her personality emerging differently from her brother's. Where Thomas was bold and energetic, Sarah was thoughtful and observant. The purchase went through in late October, nearly doubling the ranch's size. "We'll need to hire more hands," Zachariah said. "Build another bunkhouse, maybe a second barn." "And a bigger house eventually," Gabriella suggested. "The children will need their own rooms." He looked at her, eyebrows raised. "Are you thinking beyond the two we have?" She smiled, squeezing his hand. "Perhaps. There are many children who need homes." His face softened. "I think our family has room to grow." Winter came early. Thanksgiving was celebrated with a festive meal, including ranch hands and neighbors. Watching everyone gathered around the table, Gabriella felt happiness so complete it brought tears. Later, after guests left and children slept, she shared her thoughts with Zachariah by the fire. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over, my home gone, no possibility of children. Now look at us." He kissed her head. "It wasn't luck, it was God's plan." "Do you really believe that?" "I do. I think about the chain of events that brought us together. If your ranch hadn't burned, if Daniel hadn't died, if Mary hadn't brought Thomas. So many things had to happen, some painful, to create this family." "I wouldn't change any of it," she said finally. "Not even the hard parts. They led us here." As Christmas approached, Gabriella prepared with joyful enthusiasm. This year, Thomas understood the holiday, and she wanted it special for both children. On Christmas Eve, they attended church service in town. Thomas sat between them, fidgeting, but trying to be good. Sarah slept peacefully in Gabriella's arms, oblivious to candlelight and singing. After service, townspeople approached to admire the children. Even Mrs. Thornton seemed charmed by Thomas's enthusiastic "Merry Christmas" and Sarah's sleepy smile. Christmas morning, Thomas woke them at first light, bouncing on their bed. "Presents! Presents!" Zachariah groaned dramatically and swung him into the air. Sarah, disturbed by commotion, began crying from her cradle. Gabriella lifted her, soothing. "Merry Christmas, my loves." The day was filled with simple pleasures. Opening gifts, a wooden horse for Thomas, a soft doll for Sarah. Special breakfast, playing in new snow. That evening, with children asleep, Zachariah handed Gabriella a small package. One more gift. Inside was a leather-bound journal. Opening it, she found the first page inscribed, "For Gabriella, to record our family story, which is still being written. With all my love, Zachariah." The remaining pages were blank, waiting. "It's perfect," she whispered. "I thought you might want to write down the children's milestones, our family memories, so we don't forget any of it." "I love you," she said simply, kissing him. "More than I can say." As the new year began, Gabriella started filling the journal. Sarah's first tooth, Thomas's growing vocabulary, ranch expansion. She found joy recording these details, building a history for their children. Spring arrived with its usual bustle. Calving season kept Zachariah busy. Thomas was in the why stage, questioning everything. Sarah had begun crawling, exploring with determined focus. In May, as Sarah's first birthday approached, another letter arrived from Mary Wilkins. She was married now to a shopkeeper in San Francisco, expecting their first child in fall. She inquired about Thomas, expressing gratitude for updates. "Would you mind if she visited someday?" Gabriella asked Zachariah. "To see Thomas?" He considered carefully. "I don't think I would mind, but what would we tell Thomas?" The truth, eventually, that Mary gave birth to him but couldn't keep him, that we're his parents in all the ways that matter. Yes, the truth is best, but not yet. He's still too young. They agreed to invite Mary after her baby was born, when Thomas was older. Gabriella included the invitation in her reply, along with a lock of Thomas's hair and a new photograph. Sarah's first birthday was celebrated with a small party. Unlike Thomas, who'd exuberantly destroyed his cake, Sarah approached hers with methodical curiosity, carefully tasting before deciding it met her approval. "She's so different from him," Gabriella remarked. "She reminds me of you," Zachariah replied. "Thoughtful, deliberate, and Thomas is all you, determined and bold. God help us when they're teenagers." Zachariah laughed. As summer progressed, the ranch flourished. Expanded property allowed a larger herd, better profits. They hired additional hands and began planning a new, larger house on a rise overlooking the valley. Gabriella's days were full from dawn to dusk, but she wouldn't have changed a moment. The joy of watching Thomas and Sarah grow, the satisfaction of partnering with Zachariah, the peace of knowing she belonged, all combined to create contentment she'd never imagined. One warm July evening on the porch, after putting children to bed, Zachariah brought up something unexpected. "I received a letter from the orphanage again." Gabriella looked at him curiously. "Oh, they have twin boys, just turned a year old, parents killed in a stage robbery." She caught her breath. Twins. Brothers should stay together if possible, but finding a home willing to take both. "Zachariah Issac," Gabriella said, turning to face him fully. "Are you suggesting what I think?" He smiled sheepishly, hopefully. 4 children isn't too many, is it? Not for a ranch this size. 4 children under 3. We'd be outnumbered. "We're already outnumbered," he pointed out. "What's 2 more?" Gabriella laughed, shaking her head in wonder. "You're serious." "I am." His expression grew earnest. "I keep thinking about how different our lives would be if we hadn't taken Thomas. If we hadn't adopted Sarah, every child deserves what we can give them. A home, a family, love. Tears pricked her eyes. This man, once so solitary and reserved, now opened his heart without hesitation. Her love for him was overwhelming. "Yes," she said simply. "Let's bring those boys home." The twins, James and Joseph, arrived in September. Identical in appearance with curly brown hair and serious eyes, but Gabriella quickly learned to tell them apart. James was the leader, Joseph the thinker. Thomas, now a self-important big brother, took his role seriously. Sarah was initially wary, but gradually warmed to them, especially enjoying their delight in her peekaboo games. Life with 4 children under 3 was chaotic, exhausting, wonderfully fulfilling. Gabriella hired a girl from town to help with housework, allowing her to focus on the children. Zachariah adjusted his schedule to be home more. The new house progressed through fall. Twice the size of their current home, with separate bedrooms for each child, a larger kitchen, even a dedicated playroom. Gabriella sometimes found it hard to believe how far they'd come in 3 years. One crisp October morning, hanging laundry while twins napped and Sarah played nearby, she heard an approaching wagon. Visitors were unusual on weekdays. Zachariah was out with the herd, taking Thomas on a big boy ride. As the wagon came into view, she saw Dr. Morrison, his medical bag beside him. Concern flooded her. "Doctor, is everything all right? Are Zachariah and Thomas—" "They're fine, my dear," he assured her, climbing down. "I was checking on the Hendersons' new baby and thought I'd stop by. Those twins giving you trouble?" "No more than expected. They're thriving." Inside, over coffee and fresh bread, he observed her with professional interest. "You look tired, Gabriella. More than just new mother tired. Have you been feeling unwell?" She hesitated. "A bit queasy in the mornings, but it passes. I assumed exhaustion from 4 little ones." His expression grew thoughtful. "Any other symptoms? Tenderness? Changes in your monthly cycle?" Gabriella blushed. "Yes, actually. I'm late, but I thought that was also due to fatigue, and with my condition—" Dr. Morrison set down his cup. "Would you allow me to examine you?" Heart racing, Gabriella nodded. In her bedroom, the doctor performed a brief examination. "Well, my dear," he said afterward, voice gentle but excited, "it appears the impossible has happened. You're with child." Gabriella stared, unable to process his words. "That can't be. I said you were unlikely to conceive based on your medical history. But nature has a way of surprising us." He patted her hand. "I'd estimate you're about 2 months along." "A baby? My own baby?" Tears filled her eyes. "Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be. All the signs are there." After the doctor left, promising to return in weeks, Gabriella sat in the rocking chair by the twins' cradles, one hand on her still flat stomach. A baby, her and Zachariah's child, growing inside her. The miracle she'd never dared hope for. When Zachariah and Thomas returned late afternoon, she waited until children were occupied before taking her husband aside. "Something happened today." Alarm crossed his face. "What? Are you all right?" "I'm more than all right." She took his hands. "Dr. Morrison came by and examined me because I've been feeling strange. And Zachariah, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Our baby." His expression transformed from concern to shock to wonder. "But how? I thought—" "So did I. But Dr. Morrison says it's true. Sometimes these things happen even when doctors think they can't." Zachariah pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might break. "A baby," he whispered. "Oh, Gabriella, this is—" He stopped, overcome. I know, she said, tears flowing. I can hardly believe it. Are you happy? Happier than I ever thought possible. Terrified too, but mostly happy. They stood together, absorbing the news. 5 children, Gabriella said with a shaky laugh. We'll definitely need that bigger house. Zachariah's answering laugh was full of joy. 5 children, a ranch, and the most beautiful wife in California. I'm the richest man alive. News spread quickly. Most people reacted with genuine happiness, though some raised eyebrows about the already large family growing larger. Dr. Morrison monitored her condition closely, concerned because of her history. But as the pregnancy progressed normally, his worries eased. Gabriella bloomed, happiness lighting her from within. The children reacted with varying understanding. Thomas was excited about another baby, though he didn't fully grasp what it meant. Sarah accepted it solemnly. The twins remained blissfully unaware. Christmas was especially joyous. The new house was partially completed, enough to hold a small celebration in what would become the main living room, though they still lived in the old house. With 4 children and another on the way, space felt increasingly cramped. But Gabriella wouldn't have changed a thing. As winter deepened, Gabriella's pregnancy continued without complications. Her belly grew round and firm, the baby inside active and strong. Zachariah treated her with exquisite care, taking on more childcare duties, ensuring she rested. You don't have to hover so much, she teased as he insisted on bringing her tea. I'm pregnant, not glass. Humor me, he replied, kissing her forehead. This is the first time I've been present for a pregnancy from the beginning. I want to experience every moment. His tenderness touched her deeply. Though he'd embraced fatherhood with their adopted children, there was something special about sharing this journey. In late January, a letter arrived from Mary Collins. She'd given birth to a daughter and enclosed a photograph. She also accepted their invitation to visit in spring, expressing eagerness and nervousness about seeing Thomas again. February brought unusually mild weather, allowing work on the new house to progress quickly. Gabriella, now 6 months pregnant, spent hours planning furnishings and decor. One afternoon sorting linens, she felt a particularly strong movement from the baby. Placing a hand on her belly, she smiled as another kick followed. You're going to be as active as your brother Thomas, aren't you? The thought struck her suddenly. This baby, unlike the others, would be biologically hers and Zachariah's. Would that create a difference? The idea troubled her. That evening, she confided her worry to Zachariah. I've been thinking about the baby, about how this one is different. He looked up. Different how? This baby is ours biologically. I'm worried that might change how we feel, how we treat all of them. What if we love this one differently? Zachariah considered carefully. I don't think love works that way. When I look at Thomas, I don't think of him as my nephew. He's my son. When I hold Sarah or the twins, they're my children as much as if they came from us. But this is different. I'm carrying this baby. My blood flows through its veins. And so it will be special in that way. Just as Thomas is special for being our first, Sarah for being our daughter, the twins for coming together. Each child is unique, each relationship different. But the love, that's the same. His wisdom comforted her. You're right. I'm being foolish. Not foolish, he corrected gently. Just a mother concerned for her children. All her children. As spring approached, Gabriella grew increasingly uncomfortable. The baby seemed determined to take up every available inch, pressing against ribs and bladder. Dr. Morrison assured her everything was progressing normally, but warned first babies often arrived late. Be patient. Your body knows what to do. The new house was completed in early April. Moving day was cheerful chaos. Thomas helping by carrying treasured possessions one at a time, twins crawling underfoot, Sarah solemnly inspecting each space. Gabriella, now in her final month, directed operations from a comfortable chair. The house was everything they'd hoped: spacious, practical, built to accommodate their large family for years to come. A week after the move, Mary Collins arrived. She was changed from the desperate girl who'd brought Thomas 2 years earlier. Marriage and motherhood had given her confidence. Her daughter Louisa was a charming 7-month-old with dark curls. The meeting between Mary and Thomas was awkward and touching. He had no memory of her, but smiled as he did at most friendly adults. Mary was clearly emotional at seeing him, though she maintained composure. "He's grown so much," she said to Gabriella, "and he seems happy." "He is," Gabriella assured her. "We've been blessed with him." Mary nodded, blinking back tears. "I made the right choice bringing him to you. I can see that now." During her 3-day visit, Mary spent time with Thomas, but was careful not to overwhelm him. She and Gabriella developed an unexpected friendship, bound by their shared love for the boy. "Will you tell him about me someday?" Mary asked on her final evening. "Yes, when he's old enough to understand," Gabriella promised. "We'll never hide the truth. He'll know you loved him enough to ensure he had the best home possible." Mary's departure was emotional but peaceful. She left knowing Thomas was thriving, with an open invitation to visit again. 3 days later, in the quiet hours before dawn, Gabriella woke to sharp pain across her abdomen. She lay still, waiting. When it came again several minutes later, she gently shook Zachariah awake. "I think it's time." Labor progressed steadily through morning. Children were kept occupied by a ranch hand's wife. Dr. Morrison, summoned by Zachariah, attended Gabriella. By midday, pains were coming regularly and intensely. "You're doing beautifully," the doctor encouraged. "Everything is proceeding normally." Zachariah stayed by her side throughout, wiping her brow, offering water, murmuring words of love and support. His strength anchored her through pain waves. As afternoon waned toward evening, labor intensified. Gabriella, exhausted but determined, pushed with every contraction, focusing on the doctor's calm instructions. And then, with a final tremendous effort, their child entered the world with a lusty cry. "A boy," Dr. Morrison announced joyfully. "A fine, healthy son." Tears streamed down Gabriella's face as the doctor placed the squirming, red-faced infant on her chest. She looked up at Zachariah, who was openly weeping, hand trembling as he touched his son's tiny head. "He's perfect," she whispered. "Absolutely perfect." "Just like his mother," Zachariah replied, voice choked with emotion. They named him William, after Gabriella's father. As twilight deepened, the family gathered around the bed. Thomas climbed up carefully, eyes wide with wonder. Sarah stood on tiptoe, peering with solemn curiosity. Even the twins, held by Zachariah, leaned forward to see. "This is William," Gabriella told them. "Your new brother." Thomas reached out to touch the baby's hand. "He's little." "Yes, but he'll grow," Zachariah assured him. "Just like all of you." Looking around at her family, Zachariah, Thomas, Sarah, James, Joseph, and now little William, Gabriella felt completeness that defied description. From the ashes of loss had risen this extraordinary life, this abundant love. Later, as older children slept and Zachariah dozed in the chair beside her bed, Gabriella held William close, marveling at his perfect features. He was the child she'd never expected to have, yet just one of the 5 who now filled her heart. She thought of all the twists that had brought her here, the fire that destroyed her ranch, the diagnosis that seemed to close the door on motherhood, the unexpected arrival of Thomas, the decision to adopt Sarah and the twins, and now the miracle of William's birth. "Life is full of surprises," she whispered to her sleeping son, "and sometimes the best ones come after the greatest sorrows." Outside, stars shone brilliantly over the ranch, their home. Within these walls, 5 children slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge they were loved completely. And here, in this quiet room, Gabriella Garrison Issac, who had once believed she would never have children, cradled her newborn son and gave thanks for the unexpected joy of being a mother. But the story didn't end there, because life on the ranch continued to unfold with joy and challenge in equal measure. William grew from newborn to infant to toddler, his personality emerging as different from his siblings as each of them was from one another. Thomas, now 4, took his role as oldest seriously. Sarah, at 2, was the thoughtful observer. The twins, approaching 2 themselves, were a matched pair of mischief. And William, with his mother's determination and father's steady nature, rounded out the family perfectly. Gabriella had learned that motherhood came in many forms. Sometimes it arrived through loss and unexpected gifts. Sometimes it grew from choosing love over biology. And sometimes, rarely, impossibly, it bloomed from within her own body against all odds. Each child was hers. Each loved equally, differently, completely. Standing on the porch one evening, watching Zachariah teach the older children to rope a fence post while William napped inside, Gabriella reflected on how far she'd come. From the barren woman who'd lost everything to the mother of 5, who'd gained more than she ever imagined. The empire they'd built wasn't made of cattle or land, though they had plenty of both. It was made of love, chosen love, adopted love, miraculous love. All equally precious, all equally real. And as the sun set over the Sierra Nevada, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Gabriella knew this was the life she was always meant to have. Not the one she'd planned, but the one God had prepared for her all along. If you enjoyed this story of unexpected blessings and chosen family, don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below, telling me which moment touched your heart most. Was it when Mary brought Thomas? When Gabriella discovered she was pregnant? Or something else entirely? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear from you. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.